One of my favorite games ever is Risk of Rain 2. I called it the king of roguelikes back in my Risk of Rain Returns video, because it's true. It was my gateway into the genre, and from what I know, it's the gateway for the majority of people. It's just a great introduction into the genre, for good reason too. Okay, let's get right into it. Risk of Rain 2 is a roguelike. You collect items to get stronger. If you die, your run's over. The game has a timer system. The longer you're in a run, the harder it gets. It's the same system as in Returns. Go watch the video I made on it. The biggest difference from the first game is that it's got another axis. This changes everything. It does make the game easier compared to Risk of Rain 1, but they decided to help out with that by changing the returning enemies a bit. Lemurians can shoot fireballs. Other Lemurians got it cranked up to 11, which makes them one of the scariest enemies. Wisps and greater wisps are long-ranged flying enemies now. Golems shoot lasers, the Wandering Vagrant has a nuke now, etc. Survivors also got a big upgrade. You're able to unlock new abilities to change how they're played, either slightly or significantly. And skins, so you can use a different one if you don't like the default design. You've got a much larger selection compared to the first though. You've got Commando, the basic survivor. He's got dual pistols and all-right movement. Huntress, she's got an aimbot bow now. Bandit, a cowboy that carries a shotgun, revolver, and now a knife. Multi, an insanely customizable robot. Engineer, he's based around his turrets. You can either set him up to be defensive or offensive. Artificer, a literal wizard. Mercenary, a space samurai. Rex, a robot with a symbiotic relationship with a plant. Their kit revolves around losing and gaining health. Loader, the movement god. Acrid, the same acid dog from the first game. And Captain, a dude that calls down orbital support and has a shotgun for a hand. There's a character for every playstyle. If you're like me, then you know every single one of these characters is fun to play. Items got a bit of a change. You got a lot of returning items with slight changes, like the barbed wire going from a common to an uncommon, and a change to how it works. Or with the frost relic and head stompers, by giving it steroids and making it a legendary. Then you got new items, like the bands, two of the best items in the series period, or new boss items for returning bosses like Shatterspleen. Risk of Rain 2 adds a new item tiers too. Lunar items are a double-edged sword. You get a benefit while having a drawback. Look at the shaped glass. All your damage is doubled, but you lose half your health, literally turning you into a glass cannon. Or Brittle Crown. You get money for damaging enemies, but lose money when getting hit. The game being 3D changes a lot. Not only can you just dodge easier, it also allows stages to be completely different from what they'd look like in 2D. It makes these stages beautiful. Along with the main mode, you got a couple side modes. Eclipse is the most challenging thing you can do in Risk of Rain 2. It's just the main game but harder. You pick a survivor and try to get through all 8 levels with them. Each level makes an aspect of the game much harder than how the difficulties work. You also don't have access to artifacts to help you out either, so no picking your items. There's also prismatic trials. They're basically just time trials you can do. Every one is the same, but it does change like every week or so you're not just going through the same one every time forever. To recap Risk of Rain 1's story, the Contact Light crashed into a planet known as Petrichor 5, because of an attack by one of the inhabitants of the planet, Providence. You survive the crash, then kill Providence and escape the planet. Risk of Rain 2 starts off aboard the UES Safe Travels, a ship being used for the Contact Light rescue mission. You play as one of the people recruited for this mission, unless you're playing one of the characters that weren't, but you get the point. The moment you drop down onto the planet, you do the same thing the survivors of the Contact Light did. Collect items from the wreckage, and fight off creatures trying to kill you. Once you make it to Sky Meadow, the normal teleporter is changed to the Primordial teleporter, which will either let you loop or go to the moon. Going to the moon, you are met with the massive treehouse, and the ship to get you out of there. The ship is locked up. There's only one way to get rid of that dome. You gotta find your way up the treehouse. Once you get up there, you'll have to fight Mithrix. This fight is just as amazing as the Providence fight. It really shows how Mithrix is as a character, which I'll get into in a bit. But first, you gotta escape the moon. After Mithrix is killed, all hell breaks loose. Shit is blasting around everywhere on your way to the ship. The Lunar Chimeras are beefing with both you and these new enemies you haven't seen before, if you haven't bought the first DLC yet, called Void Reavers. When you escape, the entire moon just gets blooped out of existence by the Void Reavers, seconds after you leave. Unlike last time, you leave gaining something. If you fail to escape the planet before it gets taken by the Void Reavers, you disappear too, vanishing without a trace. Alternatively, if you loop instead of going to the moon, you can enter a celestial portal and obliterate yourself. If you have the Beads of Fealty, an item that seemingly does nothing, you go to a hidden realm called the Moment Hole. Here you will have to fight a twisted scavenger, a scavenger that only uses lunar items. If you kill them, you get lunar coins and your run ends. There's also additional things you can do that's connected to the story. In every stage, you can find an altar that opens a blue portal next to the teleporter at the end of the stage. This will take you to the Bazaar Between Time. This is where you can spend lunar coins on choosing the next stage and buy lunar items. This is also where you meet the New, and where you can get Artificer too. She's frozen. I'm guessing the reason why she's like that is to keep herself from dying, since when the Artificer dies and returns, she freezes herself in the same ice crystal. I don't know if it's the same Artificer though. I don't think it is, since the one in Returns doesn't have a jetpack. There's actually a secret in this place. It's not really a secret, but it is for new players. If you go back to the portal to leave and drop down, you'll find a tunnel that leads to another portal. This will take you to the Void Fields, a side stage that lets you get extra items in a run, but you gotta be careful when doing it. It's very easy to lose and run in here, depending on which enemies or items the enemies get. You can also unlock Accurate after completing it, which tells us what happened to him after the events of the first game. You can also find a golden chance shrine. If you buy it, a golden portal will spawn like how the blue portal does. This will take you to the Golden Coast, where you'll have to fight the Aurelian Knight, which if you beat her, you get an item that lets you summon her during teleporter events. And if you fight Mithrix, she will also be summoned. And you also get special dialogue from Mithrix when it happens. There's also a secret character, the Heretic. You can play as her if you collect all the items of Heresy. When you fight Mithrix as her, you also get dialogue from Mithrix. When you have both the Aurelian Knight and the Heretic, you get even more special dialogue. And one last thing, the Bulwark's Ambry. You can get to this place by going under Sky Meadow. There's a giant teleporter where you need to put in a code to enter. This is how you get artifacts. In the first game, Lore told a lot of the story. Risk of Rain 2 is no different. A lot of vlogs focus on Mithrix and his relationship with his brother. Can you guess who his brother is? They tell a story of what led Mithrix to being trapped on the moon, why he hates Providence so much, and why Petrichor 5 is the way it is. A good place to start is the Purity Log. This tells us a part of the brothers' childhood. They would play around and chase glass frogs. Mithrix's log tells us more. They would play with gravity wells, throwing things into them. Dirt, silver, starseed, wind, heat, pulsar radiation, anything. Mithrix would throw worms into the wells, but only when his brother wasn't watching, because Providence loved worms. One time though, he was watching. There's a gap in the logs from what happens next, so it's really just up for interpretation. The next log I'd say is the Bulwark's Ambry log. Mithrix shows Providence the Bulwark's Ambry, and how to use it and make life. At some point, Providence creates the Aurelian Knight, putting more soul into her than Mithrix liked. It makes her too unpredictable and frail, too powerful, an inferior servant, a threat. Because of this, Mithrix locked the Aurelian Knight into the Gilded Coast, a cage of gold. But I guess Mithrix still had a slight bit of compassion left in him to give her company. Probably not though, thinking about it. This would have long-lasting effects on the Aurelian Knight, since she wants Providence and Mithrix dead for locking her away. Mithrix then shows Providence how he thinks the Guardians should be, with the Golem Lunar Chimeras, an obedient machine made for war, nothing like the stone golems, titan golems, or colossi that have soul in them. The teleporters are created next, and while the brothers are still friendly with each other, it's clear there's a rift growing between them. Providence wants to help life on planets where they're doomed to go extinct, while Mithrix doesn't give a fuck. He sees them as lower life forms that don't deserve their time of day. He wants to find others like them and leave Petrichor 5. Mithrix takes the teleporter to the moon first, and Providence doesn't follow. Providence instead locks Mithrix on the moon, then goes out and does exactly what he hated, helping other life that risks extinction. While Mithrix was trapped on the moon, hating Providence, wishing for his death, and plotting to take over Petrichor 5. Mithrix began to start his revenge by corrupting the inhabitants of the planet. He made a realm for his most valued followers to be safe from his revenge when he's able to leave the moon. He gave them the Beads of Fealty to be able to access it. He builds new chimeras and creates the lunar items to help with this goal. And to combat the lunar items, Providence creates the cleansing pools to turn them into pearls. Unless that lunar item is the Beads of Fealty, where Providence kills whoever is found having them himself. Mithrix, closer to his goal, talks about his new teleporter, which he plans to use to escape the moon and enact his revenge, maybe even becoming the reason why planets face extinction. He knows the next planet Providence plans to save the inhabitants of, Earth. Mithrix plans to get there first. The contact light was sent to signal by a redacted individual to take a detour to Petrichor 5. It was definitely Mithrix. This is where we can connect the dots between Risk of Rain 1 and 2. Mithrix sent out a signal to get the contact light to pick up a teleporter for Petrichor 5, so that he can finally take revenge on Providence. Providence caught wind of this, where he then attacked the contact light. The lore surrounding the brothers is immaculate, and it really makes the game better as a whole. The pillars on commencement are named after the 4 elements used in creation, and after beating Mithrix, you can run back to where you started instead of escaping to find a glass rod. You can see this in Risk of Rain 1 and Returns. It's stated Providence loved worms, and an entire phase of his fight is fighting 2 worms. There's another big player in this story, and that is her. A moment Fractured mentioned about how she visited the brothers, and left enough of an impression to where they want to do greater things, and have her see them when she returns. The Brittle Crown mentioned how she died and gave a gift to Providence. Mithrix says he's wasted it. A moment Hull implies that she sacrificed herself for the brothers to make the teleporters, since Mithrix hates how the creatures Providence saved don't know about her sacrifice to allow it. I could be wrong about it, but that's how it reads to me. There's also some more mention about her. Nukahana's opinion appears to talk about her too, an entire religion about her. It could be someone else, but we've never had any indication where there's 2 hers. The ceremonial dagger log focuses on some survivors getting attacked. They use the ceremonial dagger to save them, by killing one of them to activate it. The person who dies is the one who thought of the idea, saying, "She will save us, but you have to kill me with it." The wetland aspect log is about the same survivors after the event with the ceremonial dagger. After reading the Nutormat, the book from Nukahana's opinion log, one of the survivors kills the other survivors as a gift to Nukahana, and she loved them. I have a theory. She is Nukahana, a goddess or higher being of death. Nukahana visited Petrichor 5 and sacrificed herself to give the brothers the ability to make the teleporters. And the reason Mithrix mentions her returning after she's dead is because of her involvement surrounding death. So maybe she can come back to life. This is my headcanon until we get a DLC surrounding her. Now that we've gone over the Integra lore, let's go over some other lore I think is interesting. In the first game, the survivors speculated that the imps are stuck on Petrichor 5 like them, since they're also aggressive to everything there. This was confirmed here. The imps weren't brought to the planet by Providence like everything else. They invaded the planet to retrieve an artifact. We don't have any confirmation on what that artifact is. We also learned that imps don't teleport. They're from a place called the Red Plane, and can enter a space they call the Between Space. It's not real teleportation. It's more like instantly going into the Nether, moving a couple steps in there, then coming back. Also, the Imp Overlord calls the other imps sluts. This needs to be noted. The Void River log talks about a survivor encountering one of them. It breaks into their mind to completely freeze them, talks to them in an alien language, then takes something and leaves. It leaves the survivor fucked up. The Void Fields log explains that it's a prison to lock up everything, from dangerous creatures and war machines to relics and explorers. The Heretic is one of the followers of Mithrix. Kurskan snuck onto the contact light during the attack and attempts to fix the ship. but she's killed by Providence. She's then cut into pieces and strung across the moon. I don't know if this was Providence or Mithrix that did it, but my guess is Mithrix, since he does call her the heretic. I don't think he'd call her that if he didn't think she was one. And who's gonna spread her corpse across the moon? The heretic is actually an alloy vulture. It's pretty obvious to tell when looking at it. Same feet, head shape, and they both have an innate knack for technology. The alloy vultures are actually kind of insane. The lore talks about how they just know how to use guns, and hacked a Solus control unit by tricking it to come to Petrichor 5, then hacked it to be theirs to trick other Solus units. There's the scavengers. Their lore talks about how they're terrified of humans because they kill everything they see. It's also why they attack them. It's similar to the survivor's point of view, where they wouldn't attack the scavengers if they didn't attack them first. The life cycle for the children, parents, and grandparents are the same as a star's life cycle. So the parent is the youngest, then they become a grandparent, then a child. The Grove Tenders are the creators of the Wisps. They specifically made the Greater Wisp to fight against the survivors and to protect their garden, which is the Scorched Acres. The brass contraptions are ancient robots that were saved by Providence. The Bighorn Bison are actually from Saturn, but because of poaching, Providence took them all to Petrichor 5. After the events of Risk of Rain 1, Acrita was taken by the Void Reavers and locked into the Void Fields, and he was conscious during being just atoms. And finally, Artificer's Log teaches us more about the High Court. They're an organization looking for heaven. They believe it's a planet. They're also divided into houses, with House Beyond being the only one we know of. It's no secret I fucking love Risk of Rain 2's music. If there's one thing that's always reliable, is that you know Chris Christodoulou is making bangers for this series. He just never misses. Terra Pluvium's got the majestic guitar solo. A Glacier Eventually Farts sounds so otherworldly. The Rain, formerly known as Purple, is one of the best songs out of here. Everyone knows it because it's just so angelic. I could go on. And I am. You're gonna need a bigger ukulele, but Terra Pluvium to shame when it comes to the guitar. The Face of the Deep has a fucking saxophone solo with the guitar solo. Tell me how that's not sick. Om Mani Padre Hum Part 1 is an all-around banger. And It Can't Rain All the Time is another chill track that rivals the Rain formerly known as Purple. I know this is just a small section in the video, but it can't be understated just how perfect this game's music is. If you haven't listened to it, you're lying. I've been playing it the entire time, and you can't lie to yourself. You love it too. If you can't tell somehow, Survivors of the Void focuses on the Void. It expands it exponentially. It came with 2 new survivors. The Go, Railgunner. She's like Sniper from the first game, but better. Then you have the Goat, Void Fiend. He plays around his corruption meter. 3 new stages and 2 new hidden realms. 41 new items. A lot of these are really good. This is where my glorious King Moko is from. But some other amazing items like the Symbiotic Scorpion, which permanently reduces an enemy's armor every hit, or the Pocket ICBM, which triples all missiles. There's also a new tier of items, Void items. These are corrupted versions of normal items. So if you pick one up, it'll convert all the normal versions of that item to the Void version. They also interact with Void Fiend directly. If you pick one up as him, your corruption meter will make it start 2% higher than normal. So theoretically, if you have 50 Void items, it'll just be locked in the corruption state. I don't know if it does that though. I haven't really tried. 11 new enemies and 3 new bosses, 2 new elites, mending and void touched, and finally a new game mode, the Simulacrum. It's a round-based horde mode. When playing now, you can find Void Cradles to get Void items, and find Void Seas, which are an optional objective that can appear on a stage. You're guaranteed to get a couple Void items from doing them. To access the new boss, you need to complete the Void Fields to get to the portal to enter the Void Locus. Then you need to charge the Void equivalent of the pillars, which will then open a portal in the middle of the stage. This will take you to the planetarium, where you face the Voidling. This fight is great. It's not easy by any means. This dude just basically throws trains at you the whole time with how much damage it can do to you. But once you beat the Voidling, a portal opens up. And going through the portal, your fate is unknown. The lore is just as good as before. The Void Locust log follows a survivor that enters through the same portal we do. They kinda get stuck in there and live off of eating Void Cradle goo. More crazy than that, they talk about how they watch the inhabitants of the Void transport things around. From things like creatures, weapons, ships, and even chef, all the way up to entire planets and moons. The planetarium log is from the perspective of a survivor that is stuck in the simulacrum. I don't know if it's the same one, but I'm guessing it is. They and others are constantly dying and waking up in the simulacrum. They killed what was controlling the simulacrum, escaped back to Earth, had a family, and died of old age, just to wake up back in the simulacrum. The Voidling's log follows the same survivor. They almost got it, but the Voidling froze them, scanned them, then left. This thing is fucking terrifying. It can literally trap people in the most realistic simulations for eternity. The Voidling is what the Vex think they are. The only reason I think we're able to beat it is because we're not locked in the simulacrum. And our survivor is literally LeBron reincarnated. This isn't really lore, but the Void Atoms are interesting look-wise. It's not really explained how it works, but a decent amount of them turned into living organisms. Like the tri-tip dagger turned into a bug, or the ATG missile turned into a shrimp, and Dio's turned into a squid. Finishing up with the Void lore though, we know about how Acrid was able to be released from the Void Fields, because of a leak in the Void. We finally know what caused that leak. The Void Fiend has been corrupted after being endlessly experimented on while being contained by the Void. The Void Fiend had enough, and decided to break out. One thing I find cool about the Void Fiend is that it might be a corrupted commando. Kinda just looking at it, it has a lot of similarities, like the head shape being the same as Commando's helmet, and it's got the boosters on the back. Going back into some other lore, the Clay Apothecary log tells us about the tragedy of Ophelia. The tar landed on Ophelia from a meteor, after consuming its entire planet. It promised to help the Ophelians prosper, as long as they spread it across the planet. So they did. The Ophelians made the tar the clay pots they're in now, so that they can spread much easier, and the tar took over the planet. Providence then shows up and saves the Ophelians from being consumed from the tar, but he also saves the tar too, which is why we gotta deal with the fucking Dune Striders. Survivors of the Void also gives us a new faction entirely, the Constructions. We don't know much about them, except that the Z Constructions are deadbeats. Everything in this DLC is so fucking good. From the items to the music. Hopoo did an immaculate job with this DLC, like usual. They finish off their work on Risk of Rain 2 with a bang. In 2022, Hopoo announced they're selling the Risk of Rain franchise to the publisher, Gearbox. Nobody knew what was going to happen to the game after this. I personally didn't think it was going to go well. Gearbox buys IPs, then leaves them to rot after one unsuccessful game. For a bit, nothing happened. But then we started getting changes in the game. Blue meteors were appearing on the stage of skyboxes. We then got the announcement of Secrets of the Storm. It looked really promising. And then it came out. When Secrets of the Storm dropped, it fucked everything up. Let me list a few of these out for you. Mods are broken and need to be updated, something Survivors of the Void never had a problem with, which is extremely impressive from what I know, because almost every time I see a game update, it breaks the mods. So this wasn't that big of an issue, honestly. Xbox could not play the game, period. It was just completely broken entirely. If you were able to even get past the launching problems, then you had to pray your data didn't get deleted. Everything got tied to FPS, which just broke all the physics. Loader became unplayable because of this change. It also made the game pretty unplayable because damage was based off of frame rate too. Damage indicators were just removed. Sometimes every character would just be replaced with Commando. Void Infestors just drop to the ground like they're made out of bricks, so you don't get a chance to really counter them when they spawn in like you used to. There were so many bugs that came with the release of the DLC that the big Risk of Rain YouTubers made a multi-page document of every bug. They also encouraged everyone to downpatch the game. Obviously, Hopoo aren't saints. They've had their fair share of bugs, but it never got close to being this bad. The DLC also had its fair share of problems. Most of the items in the DLC sucked booty cheeks. The only ones broken from this curse were Sail Star and Sonorous Whispers. Some of the items were broken too. Chef was just a bad survivor. Seeker's Revive didn't work. And the elites were not only bad, they were just completely insufferable to deal with. A lot of the problems from what I know are because of two major things: the console and PC code combining, and management. The console version of Risk of Rain 2 was made by Gearbox. It was not a good port. It was buggy and neglected. That shit was malnourished. When they bought the IP from Hopu, they decided to update it so that it could be a more playable game. Fast forward to Seekers of the Storm, and a ton of unfixed console bugs were now on PC. Mix that with the dogshit management at Gearbox, forcing the team now tasked with working on the game to hurry up and release the DLC, so Mr. Pitchfork can get some more bans. And you get Day 1 Secrets of the Storm. A lot of the hate that was being thrown Gearbox's way was towards everyone, devs included. It's clear now that it really wasn't the devs' fault, like usual. Since the launch of the DLC, Gearbox has fixed all the game-breaking bugs and dropped a roadmap to fix everything wrong with the DLC. The first stage fixed the items. Now they're actually good, and some of them are the best items in the game. The second stage focused on the DLC's boss fight. The boss fight used to suck to do because he was just too annoying to go against. They've since made it much better and fair, so you aren't getting insta-killed by untelegraphed attacks. The third stage focused on improving and fixing the survivors, making it so that they're on par with the other survivors. I don't know. I had to start with this because it's genuinely one of the worst launches I've ever seen in gaming. I've had a ton of anger bottled up since day one. That only recently went away since the DLC is completely fixed. Shit gave me Cyberpunk PTSD. Now that that's out of the way, we can finally talk about the content of Seekers of the Storm. Seekers of the Storm develops more of what happened after the death of Providence, setting up a new threat, the False Sun. You've got 3 new survivors. Seeker, a more support-based character, she can res herself and allies, once per stage. Chef, with a fresh new look. He decided a giant rolling pin is better than legs, and it's working out. He's also a fridge now too, and one that we'll talk about later. 18 new items. All are pretty good now. Sailstar is a man's best friend. 5 new stages, with 3 of them having loop variants. 3 new variants of the Bulwark's Ambery, 3 new enemies, and 1 new boss. 2 new elites, Gilded and Twisted, 1 new artifact, and a new skin for every old survivor for beating the DLC's boss. At stage 1 there's a new event you can do, the Halcyon Shrine. Completing this will open a new portal that will take you on the path of the Colossus. Going through the portal will take you to the reformed altar, where you just go through it like an actual stage. You can also unlock Chef on this stage. If you have the items to put into the slots where he's at, you can unlock him. If you're missing any, don't worry, they stay in there between runs. Next you go to Treeborn Colony and do the same thing, except for the Chef part. Then you finally make it to the Prime Meridian. You fight your way up to the top to finally fight the False Sun. This fight is amazing. It's also the second most interactive fight in the series too. Providence is definitely the most interactive, but this isn't far behind. Actually, I don't know about that. Mithrix literally takes your items. He used to be a bitch to fight, but now, not only is he a fun fight, it's also really cool. The change where the laser attack comes from the giant statue in the back of the arena is such a sick idea. You don't actually kill the false sun though. If you can't tell, he just dips. You're given two choices though after beating him. Either continue your run through the green portal, or offer an item at the Shrine of Rebirth and rebirth yourself. If you choose the latter, your run will end and you will get the new artifact. If you missed the Halcyon Shrine at the beginning, there's a couple of other ways to enter it. You can either go to the bazaar, where you'll have a chance for these Halcyon specs to spawn in, which will spawn a green portal for you, or you can go to the Gilded Coast and get one when you beat the Aurelian Knight. And if you fight the false sun with the Halcyon Seed, the Aurelian Knight will spawn like how she does while fighting Mithrix. Except she's hostile, so you're fighting two bosses at once. And if you succeed, you unlock the false sun as a survivor. He's definitely my favorite survivor out of the DLC. He plays around his growth mechanic, which buffs his skills the more health he has from items. So Bison Steak is really useful for him. This also plays into his other mechanic with his lunar spikes. The more he has, the more attack speed and armor he gets. The less he has, the more movement speed and health regen he gets. Our story starts with the death of Providence. The Aurelian Knight senses that Providence is dead and Mithrix is nowhere to be found, so she spreads her influence. She does sense she now has a child, and wishes them the freedom she couldn't have. The Lemurians use the Aurelian Knight's power to create a new being to protect them after Providence's death. The log ends with images that can't load, but describe a bloody scene. Mithrix calls out to Providence to mock him about the Lemurians making their new idol, calling it a mockery of a greater being. He doesn't get an answer back. The new protector is attacked by Mithrix's followers, corrupting the golem. Instead of being a guardian, he decides to become a tyrant, killing both the ones that created him and the ones that corrupted him. This is the moment Sun became false Sonnenberg. This is where we come in to fix the mess. We beat him and that changes his perspective or something to join us, which is why we can play as him. The stages for the Path of the Colossus are the most interesting things in the DLC. They're all set on this giant statue of Providence that's called the Colossus. Reformed Altar is the feet of the statue, Treebarn Colony is on the body, and the Prime Meridian is at the head. The Reformed Altar log is a conversation between a child Lemurian and an elder Lemurian, explaining why they protect the Colossus. It's for Providence. The Treebarn Colony log is a little different. It's a continuation of the Ally Vulture log. A vulture takes a meal to the Treebarn Colony, and beetles sacrifice him to the Colossus. I don't think they're followers of Providence though. I think they're followers of the false sun, because of how they're talking in the present tense, and how brutal they are with other life. I don't know if the Lemurians at the Reformed Altar are the same, because it ends with the present tense statement too, but given what happened before, I doubt it. The Prime Meridian log is different from the others. It's the origin of the Colossus. Mithrix created the designs for massive statues of himself, Providence, and her, who I'm still guessing is New Kahana, each holding their respective strength. These were gifts for them, to try and cheer up Providence after her death, and for New Kahana when she returns. They're supposed to be tools to protect the brothers from danger. Providence was allowed to say where his statue will be, and he was allowed to change its design, something Mithrix would normally never allow. So not only are two more massive statues on the planet somewhere, they're also golems. I don't think they're able to move though. That's just insane to think about. The Colossi from Risk of Rain 1 and Returns are a fraction of the size of these living statues, and even those were too big to be a boss in Risk of Rain 2. Gearbox also added new variants of the Bulwark's Ambry for Seekers of the Storm. You've got the Aphelion Research, Tar Research, and Whisper Research. Their logs follow Mithrix's opinion on the species it's dedicated to. Newsflash, he doesn't like them. In fact, he's more mad at Providence, solely because he hates them helping others he sees as below them. The Whisper Research is the most interesting out of all of them. Mithrix threatens to build another prison realm like the Gilded Coast, specifically to lock away the Grove Tenders, because they make the Wisp the same way the brothers make the golems. It also implies that the brothers aren't from Petrichor 5 either. Mithrix talks about the fight they had over him dropping worms into the gravity wells, asking him if he sees the creatures he saves as replacements for the worms he loved as a kid, if they remind him of home. Secrets of the Storm is without a doubt an amazing DLC. The stages are absolutely stunning. These stages are on par with what Hopu was giving us. Some are honestly better. The items are great and fun to use. The survivors are really fun to play and have their own unique playstyles. and the lore expands on what Hope created masterfully, expanding on concepts and stories to make them better. It isn't without its flaws. The False Dawn survivor animations still look unpolished compared to the rest of the cast, and they didn't add enough items. They should have added to the Void item loot pool, and the Lunar item loot pool, and add a few more equipment. You should have had at least one teleporter boss. Could have been anything. And on top of that, we needed new enemies, period. There isn't that much life gameplay-wise besides the new stages. I can see why we didn't get a lot of this though. The team was rushed to put out the DLC before they could really do much. That's why it launched in such a horrible state. But they also focused a lot on stages and survivors. They also made skins for every character too. A decent trade-off than with Survivors of the Void. While there is a lot of substance, I just wish we got a little more gameplay-wise. Regardless though, I absolutely love this DLC, and it's got some of the best songs in the series. Great job, Gearbox. The game is in a great state at the time of this video. The Phase 3 patch was just about everything the game needed to bring me back into it after almost a year of them fixing the game in DLC. One thing I do ask though, is to please fix the Void Infestor spawn, Gearbox. That's the only thing holding the game back now. Gearbox announced a new DLC, Alloyed Collective. From what they've shown and said about it, it looks promising. The stages look amazing, the new enemies look cool, and they're being a lot more transparent with this than with Secrets of the Storm. We already know what we're gonna get with this DLC, because they already told us. It looks promising and I have hope. If it is good, then Risk of Rain might officially be back. Like I said before, this is one of my favorite games ever. I'm so happy it's playable again. Its gameplay loop is genuinely one of the best. Its maps are not only beautiful, but are amazing to play in. Its playable characters allow for infinite possibilities. The music is one of the best game soundtracks, period. The only thing that can kill the game is itself. Risk of Rain 2 is without a doubt the king of roguelikes. Argue with the brick wall.